All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are breaking down the massive international bestseller, The Courage to be Disliked. It was written by Ichiro Kishimie and Fumitake Koga. And look, this is not just another self-help book. It's really a deep dive into the ideas of Alfred Adler, who was one of the three absolute giants of psychology, right up there with Freud and Jung. And the promise of the book is pretty huge, to give us simple, straight-up answers to the question, how can we actually be happy? But to even get started, we have to tackle this really provocative question, one that pretty much challenges everything we think we know about how our minds work. Just think about this for a second. What if your past, all your traumas, your entire upbringing, what if none of it actually defines who you are today? You see, most of us, whether we realize it or not, kind of live by Freud's ideas. We think our current problems, our anxiety, our insecurities, why we're unhappy, are a direct result of something that happened way back in our past. And it makes sense, right? It feels logical. A caused B, cause and effect. But this is where Adlerian psychology just flips the whole script. It sets up two totally different ways of thinking. On the left, you've got etiology, which is just a fancy word for the study of cause. That's the Freudian view. Your past causes your present. Simple. But then on the right, Adler gives us teleology, the study of purpose. And this changes everything. Instead of being pushed by the past, what if we're actually being pulled forward by a goal we have right now? See, if you only focus on past causes, you walk right into a trap called determinism. This quote from the book says it all perfectly. If our past locks in our present, then we don't really have any control, do we? We're just living out a script that was written years ago. We have no free will. And Adler, he completely rejected that idea. So, what's the alternative? This is the first major mind-bending shift we have to make. Instead of looking backward for a cause, Adler tells us to look right here, right now, at our present goal. And that's the core of teleology. The idea isn't that we're pushed by what happened to us. It's that we're pulled by our goals. We subconsciously pick a goal in the present, and then, and this is the wild part, we actually manufacture the emotions and reasons we need to get there. The book has this brilliant example that makes it all click. Imagine a friend who never leaves his room. The Freudian view would say, oh, some past trauma caused his anxiety, so he can't go out. But Adler's teleology says, no, he has a present goal, which is, I don't want to go out, and so he invents the feeling of anxiety as the perfect excuse to achieve that goal. The anxiety is real, for sure, but it's the purpose behind it that's the real cause. And this leads us to Adler's most radical, most controversial statement. Trauma, as this force that determines our life, simply doesn't exist. Now, wait a minute. He's not saying that terrible things don't happen. Of course they do. What he's saying is that those events, in and of themselves, don't determine our future. What determines our future is the meaning we choose to give those events. Okay, so if our past isn't the root of our problems, then what is? Well, this is the second huge shift in thinking, and Adler simplifies it, dramatically. That's it. Every single problem, every bit of anxiety, every feeling of loneliness or feeling like you're not good enough, it all comes from our relationships with other people. I mean, think about it. If you were the only person in the entire universe, could you feel inferior? No, there'd be no one to compare yourself to. These feelings only pop up in a social context. Adler himself really hammers this point home with this quote. But since living all alone in the universe isn't exactly an option, the key isn't to escape people. It's to figure out a better way to navigate our relationships with them. Okay, so if all our problems are about other people, how do we solve them without, moving to a remote cabin in the woods? Well, Adler gives us this incredibly powerful and practical tool. He calls it the separation of tasks. The whole idea is actually pretty simple, but it's a game changer. In any situation, you just have to ask yourself one question. Ultimately, who is going to receive the result of this choice? This helps you draw a line in the sand between what is your business and what is someone else's business. You are only responsible for your tasks, your choices, your actions. You are not responsible for how other people feel or react to them. That's their task. And real freedom? It's found by staying on your side of that line. This little table just makes it crystal clear. It's your task to study for the exam, but how the teacher grades you? That's their task. It's your task to choose your career path, but whether your parents approve of it, that's their task. And here's the big one. It is your task to live your life. What other people think of you is their task. Just let that sink in for a second. So much of our stress and anxiety comes from us trying to manage other people's tasks. We're constantly worrying about what they think of us, but that is their business, not ours. When we let go of their tasks, we free ourselves from that constant, exhausting need for everyone's approval. And this, right here, brings us to the absolute heart of the book. Because once you really start practicing this separation of tasks, you arrive at a very powerful and maybe even a little scary new reality. There it is. That's the big one. Being disliked by someone is actually proof that you are using your freedom, that you are living by your own rules. Think about it. If you're trying to make absolutely everyone happy, you're not living your life. You're living theirs. You are not free. Okay, but we have to be really clear here. This is a super important point. The goal is not to go around being a jerk or trying to get people to dislike you. Of course not. The goal is to live so true to yourself that you're no longer terrified by the fact that some people, inevitably, just aren't going to like it. Their approval is their task, remember? Not yours. So yeah, freedom has a price tag. And that price is the approval of others. Gaining the courage to be disliked, then, is really the exact same thing as gaining the courage to be free. So, if our sense of worth doesn't come from other people praising us and giving us their approval, where in the world does it come from? This is the final crucial piece of the puzzle: how to find real, lasting happiness. For Adler, the ultimate goal for a happy life is something he called community feeling. This is all about changing your perspective. It's about getting off that vertical ladder where you see everyone as a rival you have to compete with, and instead moving to a horizontal plane where you see other people as comrades. And this is the secret sauce to self-worth. It doesn't come from someone else telling you, good job. It comes from your own personal, subjective feeling of contribution. It's that deep down feeling that I am of use to someone, that just by being me, I'm bringing value to my community, even in a very small way. And the path to that feeling, it's built on 3 pillars. First, self-acceptance, just accepting yourself as you are, flaws and all. Second, confidence in others, learning to trust people and see them as your comrades. And finally, contribution to others, using that foundation to be useful, which then feeds back and reinforces your own sense of worth and acceptance. And this brings us right back to the central challenge of this whole philosophy. Living this way takes courage. So I'll leave you with the ultimate question the book is really asking all of us. What is one thing you would do right now if you knew it was your task and you truly, genuinely weren't afraid of being disliked?